It's time for Past Access, a barrier-free tour through history. Now, here's your host, Pete Collman.
There are only a few places on the planet quite like Iceland, born from eruption of fire and cooled by the long winter ice. Let's not forget that this is also the land of the mighty Vikings. This adventure was tailor-made for our Past Access correspondent, Kelly Narowski. We have yet to introduce Kelly to our Past Access audience, but she has been super busy with her travels and documenting all of her adventures across the globe. She has ventured all across Western Europe, Scandinavia, Asia, and even the beautiful arid lands of the Sahara Desert in Morocco, on camelback no less. So this Past Access assignment to discover the majesty of Iceland would be a perfect fit for our intrepid correspondent. Kelly and her husband were more than ready to experience this Icelandic wonderland in spite of some of the wheelchair challenges they would face. Ever the adventurer, Kelly introduces us to this land of fire and ice.
Iceland has a beauty that is unique and amazing. On one hand, lush and living with natural growth. On the other, rocky and sparse, a throwback to the turbulent day of her creation. If the landscape seems familiar to you, you may be remembering scenes from HBO's Game of Thrones or several scenes from Star Wars. This Nordic nation has around 360,000 residents, populating about 40,000 square miles, making it the most sparsely populated nation in Europe. Iceland's capital, Reykjavik, will most likely be your port of entry, and it served as our first stop in our Iceland trip. And here I am in front of Hallgrim's Church, and it was constructed between 1945 and 1948. And Iceland is unique in that it is the only European country where the original settlers, there were Christians among them. And Iceland was settled in the 9th century, and it was mostly people of Nordic origin. Reykjavik is an accessible city with a great deal of charm. You can visit the soaring Hallgrímskirkja Cathedral, or wheel along the Rainbow Bridge streets through the art district celebrating pride and diversity. It's a beautiful place. However, Iceland is more than just Reykjavik. It really is so much more. My husband and I drove through the countryside to explore what real Icelandic life is like. The farms and villages were amazing, but it was the kindness of the people that will forever stay with me. The people had such a spirit of inclusion, whether it's the whale watching cruise up in Husavik, or the lady that owned the goat farm that said, we'll get around as much as we can when I asked about accessibility as a wheelchair user. Further, my husband and I drove around the beautiful Ring Road, which you can do in 8 to 12 days. And I recommend the 10 to 12 days. We did it in 8.5. I really didn't need much assistance at all, but I would recommend going with somebody so that you can do everything possible. Iceland was an amazing trip.
So a lot of people write into the show for Past Access saying, Pete, one of the things that we have a big anxiety about is what do we do with hotels? Should we ask about certain dimensions for the doors? Do they have elevators? Well, yeah, yes to all those things. And those are some of the things that I think about every time I travel. So for more information on that, let's go to our Past Access travel tips. In this edition of Travel Tips, we tackle the big question of hotel stay and accessibility. The first thing I do while planning a destination is to start combing the web on HCAP accessible hotel reviews, locations, and cost. This is the hard part. There are plenty of wheelchair accessible places in many cities and towns around the world, but it is a difficult marriage between accessibility and cost that is always my focus. Many hotel websites have filters that include disabled access, but you need to dig deeper before committing. Here is my top 5 questions to ask when reserving an accessible hotel. Number 5. Location, location, location. Ask about hotel location to major sites and local access to sidewalks, if there are any hills around, and transportation concerns. Most likely you want to be mobile and see the area. Next question. Ask about access to the entrance to the lobby. If it has stairs or a steep ramp, this may be the first deal breaker. Question number 3. Ask if there is an elevator. Ask the hotel to measure the width and depth of the elevator. If it is too narrow, which is common in older hotels, guess who is not levitating up the stairs? Number 2. Do you know your doorway access? Have the hotel measure the doorway to your room and ask if the door opens out to the hallway or opens in. You may need every centimeter to get your chair in, so how the door opens may be important. Also know the metric system. If you're traveling to Europe and most places around the world, inches really won't help you if you're giving the width of your chair to a hotel staff. Provide the hotel with the width of your chair that also includes camber and your rims. And finally, the number 1 question. Is the restroom accessible? This means ease of access into the bathroom and the ability to close the door behind you. Not everyone wants to be an exhibitionist when taking a shower.
On your travels, you may not get all the information that you really need about the accessibility. And the main thing is the bathroom. It may not seem too fancy, but you can see this is what they give you. They give you basically a stool. It's great if you can actually bring your own shower chair, your collapsible shower chair. This is kind of the inside, we call it inside baseball information when it comes to traveling internationally. That you need to be somewhat prepared. And even when you ask for a handicap accessible room, this is kind of what you might get.
Ask if they have a shower chair or a shower bench, so you don't have to bring one from home. Also ask about grab bars in the shower and near the toilet. Hopefully the grab bars are attached to a reinforced wall. Once you have some answers, and maybe even a few hotel-sent photos, you are good to go and have taken the first steps in making a less stressful trip when concerning your lodging arrangements. And remember, enjoy your stay.
So flying into Reykjavik's one thing. Mass transportation there in Reykjavik is actually a big help for people getting around with disabilities. But remember, the town's a little hilly, so you're going to have to take that into account. If you want to see things further afield, which I totally recommend, and Kelly would recommend this as well, you want to see the real Iceland, you're most likely going to have to rent a car and get around. So for more on that, here's Kelly.
So you made it to Reykjavik and you're ready to start exploring. A taxi to the hotel is a good idea, or maybe a bus, or if you've done your homework, a rental car is possible. All good options in this capital city with a few exceptions. But if you're traveling as a chair user, you may need to prepare for some unique accessibility concerns in the city and Iceland as a whole, with some accessibility issues, especially during the winter months. However, they are developing decent accessibility forethought, and it is getting better year after year with the government's Access for All campaign. Reykjavik has its hilly parts, so keep this in mind when pushing around. But if given the choice, don't forget to try out the boardwalk for a great view and access. However, to experience the real Iceland, you need to get out of the city. You need to see the nature. So if you want to go about it on your own and rent a car, you will need to reserve ahead of your visit to add on the service for the hand controls to be installed before your arrival. However you do it, exploring Iceland's natural beauty is a thing not to be missed. And take it from me, the memories will last a lifetime.
Next time on Past Access, come with us to discover the beauty of the Veneto region of Italy. From the timelessness of the floating city of Venice and the enchanting legends of Verona, to the peaceful waters of Lago di Garda, Past Access has you booked on a vacation you won't soon forget. We will put our wheelchair travel skills to the test, traveling on planes, trains, and vaporetti. Andiamo! There's no time to waste, as there is so much to see on the next Past Access. Now, this would not be a true Past Access show without diving into some points on local history or enjoying historic context of the region. So why don't we just dive on into some of Iceland's more famous or infamous historic figures? the Vikings, or to be more exact, the Norsemen. Iceland was an unsettled land, ready to be claimed without pushback from established Scandinavian rulers in Norway and Sweden. Starting in the second half of the 9th century, these new inhabitants used Iceland as a jumping-off point for explorers and would-be settlers of Greenland and North America. If you need to place a face on these early settlers in Iceland, you'd probably have to go with Ingolfur Arnason. Ingolfur laid claim to the area near Reykjavik around 874. This Norwegian was a tough dude. He was known to have taken bloody revenge on his Irish slaves that murdered his wife. His son Thorstein became a great chieftain and founded an early version of the world's first parliament in 930 called Althing. Well, you want some more history? Well, let's do it. When in Reykjavik, you have several options to learn more about the Viking or Norseman people, and many of the museums here are wheelchair friendly. Downtown, you have the possibility to visit the Reykjavik City Museum, with kid-friendly exhibits on Viking settlements and maritime history. But if you're flying in and out of Keflavik International Airport and driving towards Reykjavik, you need to hit the Viking World Museum on Route 41. Inside is a replica Viking ship akin to the one found near Oslo in Norway. Plenty of hands-on exhibits about seafaring and exploration and Viking peoples. And of course, a section on Norse mythology and sagas. Iceland is truly a land of natural beauty, but it also is a land of historic treasures.
So that's our show on Past Access Iceland, Land of Fire and Ice. We want to thank our correspondent Kelly Narowski for making the trip over to Iceland. It was something that we want to do for all our trips with her because she is an amazing correspondent that gives a lot of our audience some really great information about wheelchair accessibility and getting around to all these great places in Europe and in Asia, Scandinavia, North Africa, and North America. So we're going to keep her pretty busy. If you have comments or questions about the show or want to take a look at what we do at Past Access, you can also go to pastaccess.com for all that latest information, including our new show called DYK for Did You Know? You don't want to miss that. So until next time, for Past Access, I'm Pete Collman. We're history.
You have been listening to Past Access with Pete Collman. For more information on the show or insight to disabled access at historic locations, please visit us at pastaccess.com.